What up, guys? I'm former UFC fighter and current owner of Easton Training Center, Elliot Marshall.
I'm Scott Nickel, teaching pastor at Flatirons Community Church.
Scott, am I fucking going to hell?
Yes.
Welcome to the Saint
and the Sinner. All right, everybody, welcome back to Saint and the Sinner, episode 8. We've had a little time off. You guys didn't know any better because of our time travel experiment, and we've done a couple things. You traveled up to Montana.
Let's rant first.
You just want to get after it.
Let's just rant and we'll talk about it.
We've worked out already.
We've worked out already.
Do I have a vein right here?
Yes.
Yeah, usually when I work out, I get this vein.
So normally we work out after the podcast. Today we had to do it beforehand, so we got up nice and early today. Maybe not early for you.
Well, I got up earlier because I had to get down here to Boulder, but I'm used to working out at 6 a.m. That's my normal time.
I am not. Scott beat me again, Vinny.
Hey, but it was only by seconds today. I was a little shocked.
By seconds. Scott beat me again, Vinny. You are not going to beat him.
Vinny's ready for this. The other day he was like, I'm in good shape. I'm ready to go.
It doesn't matter how good a shape you're in. If you're not used to it, you're not used to it.
So you're a little angry. I'm a little angry. This should go well today.
Yeah.
I'm angry because I had to get gas. I got in the car. The light was on. My new car tells me approximately how many miles I'm supposed to have left, but it changes. It'll be like, you have 14 miles left, and then it'll go 18.
Yeah.
Then it'll go 11, and then I'll just be out of gas.
Wait a minute.
So I stopped at the Shell station in Jay's neighborhood, and my beef with Shell is that if I pay at the pump, I have to answer 35 questions before I can...
So it already puts you in a bad mood.
And I'm already mad.
Yeah.
And so I go to enter my zip code, and I hit 8, and I hear 2 beeps.
Right.
I hit 0, I hear 2 beeps. And then I continue on, and it's 2 beeps every time. And so then it doesn't work.
So now you're even more mad.
So now I'm more mad, so I go again, and it doesn't work. So finally I do something I never do. I hit the talk to the attendant button.
Through the microphone?
Through the microphone.
Oh, man, no wonder you guys missed it. Oh, my Lord.
So I hit that, and it takes like 30 seconds, and I'm like pacing around the parking lot. I'm angry, you know. And finally she goes, yeah, you know, she just like yells. I'm like, hey, and I don't know how to explain. I haven't rehearsed what I was going to say, so it doesn't come out right. I'm like, the number pad thing doesn't work for the zip code. And she doesn't understand anything I'm saying. It's like 30 seconds before she responds with like, what's the problem? And finally I was like, forget it. I go inside and I walk in and I go, hey, just put $50 on the pump. So one of my other major malfunctions, now you have a booger right here on the, there you go, you got it.
Sorry. Sorry, guys.
I can't deal with that for the entire podcast. So I swipe the card, she gives me the receipt, I sign it. One of my other malfunctions is I don't pay attention to receipts at all, ever. I've never looked at, oh, the total's correct, nothing. So I go out there and I start pumping, and at $14, the pump starts slowing down to like a snail's pace. And I'm like, what is wrong with this thing? And then I realize she's put $15 on it. So now I'm like slamming things around. I'm just mad. I'm cussing under my breath. And then just as I'm doing this guy stops. He goes, Pastor Scott, good morning. Just wanted to say you're doing a great job. Keep it up. I'm like, oh, God, this is my morning. This is my morning. Then I come in and work out with you.
Yeah.
So.
But that was fun, at least.
Yeah, I just hate having to answer 35 questions.
On the pump.
On the pump.
Yeah.
Do you want a car wash? Do you want this?
It's the same thing when you call somewhere. You know, sometimes it's like,
hit 0, hit 1.
Just let me deal with my problem. My problem will be so much easier.
Yeah, when I call Comcast, I continue hitting 0 until
the
finally
operator comes up. Yeah, same thing.
Absolutely.
My beef. Guys, I absolutely love discussing with you. It's fun. I enjoy it. I am not going to discuss with you all week, on week's end, week after week after week after week.
On Facebook.
On Facebook.
Yeah.
Say your piece, I say my piece. If it takes, we have jobs to do. If it takes a day, whatever, I'm down, But if we start on Tuesday, we need to end on Tuesday.
At midnight?
At whenever, And then if something comes up next week that you want to discuss with me, again, no problem. I'll take another day with you. I'm not just going to go back and forth for odds on end about every single topic that we could possibly disagree on.
I think you and I suffer from another similar character flaws. We both always want to get the last word.
We want to get the last word.
And it's even worse in written form. Like, I don't feel as compelled to get the last word with you because I know we'll do this again.
Yeah.
So, whatever. And we're friends. But on, when people email me, this happens to me all the time via email, too, and Facebook's worse, is when people do this, they'll say something, and I'll go, that's just wrong.
Yeah.
And I can't
let it go.
Point it out.
Yeah.
I can't, and it'll churn within me until finally it comes out through my fingertips. And then I almost always regret it.
Yes.
The times I've finally just gone, just let it go. If I'll give it a day, it goes away because there's more important things in life, you know.
So my wife says to me last night, I tell her about my little spat last night, and she goes, "Why did you just not respond and just never talk again?" And I was like, I just sat there quiet. I was like, because I can't. Okay?
It's so hard.
Right?
It's so hard.
So anyway, I'm glad to discuss. I'm not going to discuss all week. And most importantly, I think this is going to go for you too. When we say we're done, we're done.
Yeah.
Okay, we're done. The conversation's over. We're going to try to exit it as nicely and friendly as possible. And if you don't let me, I'm going to come after you. Okay?
Not on Facebook. He'll show up at your house. He'll be standing there in his tank top at your front door.
Hey, it's sun's out, guns out, you know?
Allie almost bought me some tank tops.
Yeah?
She's like, you should wear a tank top during the podcast. Because Elliot likes to wear tank tops. I was like, I'll wear a tank top.
I love tank tops.
Yeah, let's go.
Yeah,
and she was like, no, I'm just joking. I'm like, why not? She's like, because you look silly. He's bigger than you.
I didn't wear tank tops last summer. I was too fat. But then I started doing CrossFit.
You feel better about yourself.
I started doing CrossFit, and man. And plus my kid likes it.
So there you go.
If I'm doing yard work and I take my shirt off, it doesn't go 5 seconds.
Yeah.
It doesn't go 5 seconds. He's like, stop that. And he rips his shirt off, you know? And I was like, all right, cool, buddy.
Oh, you had another, we had another thing to rant about that we talked about earlier in the week. It's just been precluded by these more recent events. So this happens to me all the time, too.
It always sucks when I slam the desk.
Yeah, stop it.
Man.
Calm down.
Yes, I hate this. It's my story, so I'm telling you.
Yeah, so you tell it.
So I'm coming to pick my kid up and from a camp, and I have my other baby with me, and I go to put my baby in the car, and somebody looks at me and goes, babysitting today, huh? And I look at him and I say, no, these are my children. I don't babysit my kids. So all you men out there, if you say that you're babysitting, shut the fuck up. Okay? You're not babysitting your children. Unless you are a shitty dad. Okay? If you use the term, I babysit my kids, you suck. I'm really sorry. Okay?
Because babysitting is a contract labor situation where your primary role is basically to keep the children alive.
Yes, just keep them safe till the parents get home.
Yeah.
So now you're implying that you're keeping them safe till the mother gets home.
Yeah.
Which is one, dumb, and two, it's very misogynistic.
Yeah, you clock out.
Yeah. I don't babysit my kids. I raise them. I'm trying to make them good adults. However messed up in a way I might do that. Right? Who knows? I'm not saying I'm a perfect parent, but I for sure don't babysit my kids.
Yeah, people say that to me all the time when I'm out with the kids. As they're feeling sorry for me, and they either assume my wife has died.
Sure.
There's no way you can be out with 4 children, you know. And then they let me cut in line at the grocery store, which is awesome. I'll let that happen every time. I'm never gonna
take it every time.
Yeah, take it every time. I try to look extra sad.
Take it every time.
But yeah, the other assumption people make is oh, this must be a one-time you must be babysitting. You know, oh, you're babysitting today. What's going on? You know, it's no, I'm just a parent. It's what I do.
And ask your wife, because I asked my wife if anybody's ever said that to her, and the answer is no.
Never. Allie even said this the other day when we were talking about it. She was like, nobody would ever say that to a woman.
No.
Nobody would ever say that. And she was like...
You get 10 of them.
Yeah.
And they're still just yours.
Yep. Yeah, look at that. Wow, you got a lot of kids.
Yeah.
I have had people yell at me for the amount of kids I have.
Really?
Yeah.
Why?
Because they think it's irresponsible. I think I'm there's not enough water, there's not enough food, and here I am with, populating the earth with all of 4 children. And my response is always, I don't like most people, so I'm trying to create people that I like. So that usually goes over really well.
It goes over really well.
Yeah.
It goes over really well.
Yeah.
Jay and Hank are both just over here going, oh man, this is it. This is the last episode.
This office has 80% of the people I like in it.
I have to apologize real fast. So I got to apologize to Hank, man. I blew it after the last one. Hank forgot the microphone in here, so I grabbed it. And I happened to take it to Denver. And then Ian and I had a miscommunication where I thought he said that he was going to come back to Boulder that night.
Uh-huh.
And I was like, all right, cool. Well, then just drop off the microphone at the academy, And he said that he was going to come back to Boulder on Wednesday. And I had told Hank to come get it. And I was just and then Hank's I think Hank rode his bike down here or something. And I was
like everywhere.
And then Mike called me, whose office this is, and he was like, Elliot, this guy Hank's here with his microphone. And I was like, he's like, and I think he rode his bike from like Erie or something, man, to get this microphone. And I was like, did Ian not drop it off? And Mike's like, no, man. I was like, oh. So I'm really sorry, Hank.
Sorry, man.
That's
my bad, man.
That's why Hank only uploaded 20 seconds to the last episode. Just like, Hank rides his bike everywhere.
Yeah.
I look a little funny sitting in here in my cycling kit with all the jiu-jitsu guys leaving a class.
Nice.
Yeah, you should have just been like, want to roll? Want to roll? Want to roll?
Like, not with that.
I walked into the kitchen yesterday at the church at the office, and a guy named Eric Vivi is a friend of mine who is at our jiu-jitsu school, and we roll together a lot, and his wife is on staff. And so I walk in the kitchen, there's all these people standing around. I see his wife Laura, and I just go, just got done rolling around with your husband. And she totally was like, oh, cool, yeah, because she's like used to that kind of lingo. Everybody, like, the kitchen stopped. Like, you were doing what?
Were you doing drugs and having sex?
Right, we were both.
Which one was it? Yeah.
Right, which one was it? Like, sorry, maybe I should explain.
Are you Ted Haggard? Drugs and sex? Drugs and gay sex?
It's just a massage. I have lots of stress in my life. Yeah. This episode's going to go well, I can tell from right now. So you went to Montana.
We can't work out first anymore, man. We have too much energy to work out first.
I want to be the opposite. So you went to Montana.
Yeah.
I drove from here to Moab, to the Grand Canyon, to Prescott, Arizona, to Albuquerque, which you were right, that place is shady, then home.
So Cody and I, when we used to drive to Albuquerque, right as you're coming down I-25, right? God, I don't even remember who sings the song. It's a song called Ghetto, right? And it goes, ghetto, ghetto, ghetto. And it's like the place where the lights don't shine.
It's like turn it on.
Yeah, we were just turning it on. We used to drive to Albuquerque to the train. You know what I mean? And we just turn that thing up, roll the windows down, and be like, all right, and just embrace the ghetto.
Turns out we stayed right down the street from Jackson. So
we
were in some Holiday Inn Express or something. So we were like a mile from it or something.
It's scary, man.
It's a little sketch.
It's scary, bro. The whole town.
I thought maybe that would be the second place where I might get in a confrontation. I told you on an Indian reservation, Allie almost got me into a fight.
Yeah.
Allie almost got me in a fight on an Indian reservation. How well do you think that would have gone?
Episode 9.
Episode 9, yeah. So we'd be pulling in this gas station. There's these 4 really shady dudes, and it's a long line at the gas station because it's the only gas station for like 60, 70 miles or whatever. So I pump my gas and then have to get out of there, but everybody has to pee, and so everybody's gone inside and all that kind of stuff. And I pull over right beside where these shady dudes are hanging out on the corner because there's a parking spot right there. And Silas is in the back. He's sound asleep, like dead to the world asleep. I've got to get him up, give him an opportunity to pee because who knows when we'll stop again. And I got to go, so I can't leave him in the car. But the shady dude's there. Allie's in with the other kids. And so I'm getting Cy out of the car, and he's just dead weight, and all this. And one of the dudes comes over, and I'm like reaching in the very back seat trying to get in, and he's carrying this like bag. And he walks over, he's like, hey, man, you want to buy any of these $1? And they're tools. They're just like rusty wrenches and stuff like that. I'm like, no. He's like, well, just give me $1. I'm like, no, I'm not giving you $1. I'm here to get my kid out, so that he can pee, and that's it. So
so this makes you, especially when your kids are involved, you're heightened.
Oh, it's
like you're heightened. You're right there. You're like,
Yeah.
Like when it's just you can turn around, look at the guy sometimes, and be like, whatever, man. Yeah. But when your kid's there, it changes the situation.
Yeah, and my family's divided, right? So I got one here, I got others over there. So like my sense, I'm on hyper alert, And so I turn to start to get Cy out again, and then this guy puts his hand on me. And that's like, something happens when somebody touches you too, where it's like, now we've taken this to another level. And so I put
Even when it's not a bad touch necessarily.
Yeah.
He just touched you, but it does it.
There was a song called Bad Touch.
Yeah.
Anyway,
good touch, bad
it was different than that.
Touch, bad touch, no secrets, man. That's what we talk to the kids about. Good touch, bad touch, no secrets.
That's right. And so he puts his hand on my shoulder, so I'm like, I put Silas down, I turn, and I look right at this guy, and I'm like, listen, I'm here for my family to go to the bathroom, and then we're leaving. I don't want any of your stuff. Leave me alone. And to his credit, he was like, oh, okay, man, I respect family, I respect family. Okay, thanks. That's awesome. So I carry Silas in, and as Allie's coming out, I'm like, hey, stay in the store or go over that direction. because there's some shady dudes standing over there. I don't want you to be near them, you know, especially the kids. Eli's liable to make it even worse. You know? So I come out, and Allie is right outside the store near these dudes. I'm like, what are you doing? She's like, let's just get in the car. Let's just get in the car. I'm like, what happened? She's like, let's just get in the car. Let's just get in the car. Let's get out of here. I'm like, all right, fine. So we get in the car, and I'm like, everybody's fine. Nobody's like...
So you're assessing the situation like they couldn't have raped her.
That was way too fast.
You know what I mean? Like so I don't have to kill these guys.
Nobody's crying.
Right? Yeah,
so I'm like,
fine,
there is something, though,
but
that I could tell she was afraid. She didn't want to tell me because she was afraid to escalate the situation. So, like, I get in the car, and then I go, okay, what? You know? And these 4 dudes are still right there, and I start to back out, and she's like, this guy looked right at me and was like, it's not nice to stare, bitch. And I was like, well, what were you doing over there? And she was like, I wanted to keep an eye on the car. I was like, didn't I not say stay away from these guys? And sometimes, I told you this, my wife is like my kids. If I tell her don't do this, it makes her want to do it even more. And so she thought that it was a wise idea to go stand and keep an eye on the car at the expense of perhaps the risk of our children, you know, and I've already argued. I know, I've already argued with her about this. She even apologized. She's like, you're right, I'm sorry, you know. I was like,
but now you brought it up on the podcast.
I know, yeah.
You've changed the subject.
I know.
Right? You can talk to her about some shit. But if the whole world knows now.
But I told her, I was like,
Allie, I got you, girl. I got you, girl.
I was like, I wouldn't have started a fight with this guy because he called you a bitch. You know, if he touched you or touched any of the kids, it would have been game on.
Sure.
You know, but just for yelling at you, I'm not gonna get in a fight in an Indian reservation where I'll probably end up in a jail of some sort for a while.
Yeah, you wouldn't do it.
It wouldn't go well.
Yeah, it wouldn't go well.
Yeah, so I'm a little edgy today. So there was that, and then do you want to talk about Montana at all? Or?
Man, so Montana, and then I've said this to my wife too. So we had a wedding to go to my wife's best friend's wedding, and we get there on Tuesday night, and I'm in a hotel room, and she's got all this wedding stuff to do for a Friday wedding. We're there on Tuesday, you know. And in my head the whole time, I did none of the planning. I just said okay the whole way through, which is whatever. Normally it works out pretty well, you know.
There's a guy in a go-kart going by behind you, just so you know. Is that normal?
I had no clue.
All right. Just another day in Boulder.
Another day in Boulder, yeah. So, but while we're doing this, I'm like, why am I taking the kids?
He's going to get run over by the trash truck. I hate to keep interrupting you, but I'm a little worried about him because his profile is this high. And there's a trash truck backing up.
Guys, we might have...
He's way down there now. It's fine.
We might have to go to do some CPI. I'm like, why am I here on Tuesday?
For a Friday wedding.
For a Friday wedding with the kids in a hotel room. Now, like, don't get me wrong, I started early by saying, I can handle my kids, right?
Yeah.
And I can totally handle my kids, like, in my house, like, where I have things, like, my whole house to use.
Now you're in a hotel room.
I know where everything is, right? Like, I can take them here, take them there, do whatever. And, but a hotel room changes the ball game.
Yeah.
You know, a hotel room changes the ball game. And we talked about this, it all depends, because we have a baby the same age. It all depends on the baby, right? And Kanan, my oldest, didn't sleep in hotel rooms, wouldn't nap, barely slept at night. So I was just like, so my wife's going to be gone all day.
I have nothing to do.
I have nothing to do with these children.
Except babysit.
And they're babysitting. And the baby's not going to sleep. So therefore, no one's going to sleep, and we're all going to be very, very miserable, stuck in a room. But it ended up turning out okay. Because Simon slept.
Yeah.
Simon slept like a champ. He took a great nap. He slept great at night. So we had a great, and I was expecting, so I went to Cheyenne a month ago. And we had a really interesting experience in Cheyenne. We walked into a bar, one of our buddies walked into a bar, and there's this t-shirt. And Cheyenne, if you've been there, haven't been there, it looks like you're in the 70s still. You know, the town. And the mentality of it as well. We walked into this bar, and there's a shirt for sale in this bar that says, "We don't have an AIDS problem, we kill all of our faggots."
Yeah, for sale in the bar.
For sale.
It's not like some dude at the bar.
Yeah, no, and there's some people wearing it as well. So it's for sale, and people are buying
this. Like this bar is like
number one thing. I was like, great, all right, I'm leaving Cheyenne as soon as I can, right, with my Jewish black ass. So anyway, we get to Montana, it looks the same. Yeah. And I'm just like, oh man. I'm like, I'm going to be here for 4 days, huh? With my kids. And it ended up being great.
Yeah.
It ended up being great. Everyone was real nice.
That's good.
And we had a good time.
Yeah, our trip, I thought could go one way or the other. I thought it could go bad, but it went pretty well. Our kids did great. They had fun at this camp. I got a shout out to, there's probably a bunch of high school students listening to this podcast. It's funny. The night one of this camp, I taught like 10 times, at this camp, high school kids. And I mentioned this podcast, and night 2, I was like, hey, maybe I should have mentioned, because I remember, like, some of these kids are like 14.
Sure.
I was like, I was like, hey, so some of the content, on our podcast, there's swearing and, we talk about some serious stuff, that kind of thing. So if either your conscience isn't cool with that or your parents are going to get mad at you, don't
be careful.
I said, don't just tell your parents, don't email me.
Yeah.
Because I don't care. I don't care. I've said my piece, you know. And but I've gotten emails from some of the adult leaders and some of the students already. They've been catching up. So shout out to all some of them were from Vegas, so I don't think their conscience is going to be bothered too much. Some were from Phoenix, and others were from kind of all over Arizona.
I've had some good feedback for the most part. I have to say we've had some really good feedback.
Yeah.
I did have one crazy experience, like a Montana experience when I was there. So there's this water park, right?
In Montana.
But it's not like Waterworld, right? It's their Waterworld.
Yeah.
It's got a big pool. I was super stoked, man. Came in, swam 50 meters without touching the bottom.
Wow.
Without touching. He'd have to roll over and breathe a little bit, right?
That's really good.
But for 4 years old, man, 50 meters is long. I was stoked.
Plus, he's dense.
Yeah. He did. I was really happy. So there's this big pool with some slides. They had this baby pool that they just filled up with the hose water, so it's freezing fucking cold. And then they had this like lazy river, which was not lazy.
It's also called the Porta-John.
Yeah,
really.
yeah.
That's where you go to pee.
It was death. Right?
That's where I go to pee.
Yeah.
Is that not where you guys go to pee in the lazy river?
They had good
You got to relax.
Yeah. So anyway, this river was not lazy, and it had this slide on it that like shot you around and into the lazy river, and it kept like this crazy, and it was a short slide. This crazy slide kept the river going.
So you're laying,
but it was fast, but you couldn't really lay because the whole thing was almost torpedoed.
Yeah.
So I'm in it with Kanan. I didn't know what the slide was at first, and he wants to go do it. So I'm like, okay. So I get on there, and like he's handled fast slides before, right? So I'm like, all right, buddy, I'm gonna go first, and then I'll catch you at the bottom, which is the way to do it, right? You go, and then he goes. If he falls off, he's fine. So anyway, I come down and I shoot out the river, shoot out the slide, and this thing shoots you, man. It shot me like 50 feet, and the bottom's all slippery like ice. So I got shot out of my tube, right, on it. So I'm like, oh man. I was like, he's for sure getting shot out of this tube. So I just lose my tube, and I'm like trying to run back to the beginning of the slide because I know he's coming, right? And I see him come down, and he's shot out of his tube, right? He's just up and down, in and out of the water. And I'm like, oh God. And it's like, you know what I mean? And he's not like coming right to me. Yeah. He's like over there, and I'm like running to go get him. And I grab him, and I'm like, oh man, this is going to be bad. This is going to be bad. And he's like, Daddy, that was great. And I'm like, cool, buddy, we're not doing it again. And he's like, why? I was like, don't you worry about it, man. Daddy almost died having a heart attack.
That's awesome.
And I try not to be a helicopter dad,
Yeah.
But this one did scare me.
Yeah. Renee has accused you of perhaps being a bit of a helicopter dad.
I'm a helicopter dad in some situations for sure when I think they're dangerous.
Yeah.
But when I think that there's, and I don't think a lot of situations are dangerous, but pools can be very dangerous, on higher things can be very dangerous. I let Kanan basically do almost whatever he wants now because he's 4.
Yeah.
Not that that's that old or anything, but I can see him, and I'm okay with him getting hurt or something like that. But when they're little, the head is like hitting your head is very, very
the
dangerous.
Grand Canyon. I got really freaked out because people like climb over railings, and I'm not cool with heights anyway. I don't have good balance, so it's not a good combo, But I was watching these parents like walk right up to the edge with their kids, and like hang their toes off. I'm like, it's just not worth it. The view's good from 12 feet away from the edge.
Sure.
I'm sure it improves a bit, but not enough to risk my life, So I bought a book about, it's called Death in the Canyon.
I'm going to make a really, really, really inappropriate comparison.
Go for it.
My friend got his penis pierced.
Yeah.
And he got it done because he was like, I heard this makes it
I had a friend in college,
in college. He's like, I heard it makes it much better. And I looked at him and I was like, bro, it's pretty good enough.
Yeah.
You know? I was like, it's pretty good enough
This is my
without
friend.
that, bro.
This is my friend in college's theory, and I probably won't even give his full theory. I'll tell you off air what his full theory was,
Okay.
but it was flawed. It was very flawed.
Yeah.
Like anatomically, it was a flawed idea, you know. And we all, of course, were like, you got to show it to us.
Sure. Oh, yeah, I've seen
you
it. Oh,
have
yeah,
to see
you
it.
have to see it.
Yeah.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah, and it's just horrific.
I'm
really.
one of those people.
too.
If you tell me, I've got to
Yeah.
see it. Like, we found out that this dude...
Here we
Oh,
go.
man.
This is going in a great direction.
We found out that this dude that cooked our food for a while
Oh,
did gay porn,
yeah?
right?
So you had...
I had to go look.
yeah.
I had to go see it just for a second to see if it was really him, right? I didn't watch any videos. I just found images, right? So my wife was like, when they told you that you couldn't just take their word for it, I was like, I was like,
that's
come
another
on, baby.
character flaw.
I was like, come on, babe, I can't just take someone's word for this. And, you know, so I for sure looked, right? And she comes home and she's like, really? She goes, yeah. I was like, she's like, well, I'm just going to take your word for it. And I was like,
Yeah.
okay.
And she's medical, so she
Yeah.
can even have like a license almost to
Look,
say
we've
this.
all seen an erection before. It's no big
yeah,
deal.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, you just had to confirm. Yep, that's
Yeah,
him.
that's him.
Wow.
That's him.
That's the
We're
guy
gonna
who cooks my food.
We're going to lose all of our viewership this week.
That's such a great segue into Tony Dungy, too.
All right, walk yourself.
Okay.
Walk yourself
You think
into
I'm
this
gonna
time
walk
bomb.
into time bomb?
Walk yourself
Maybe-
into this time
Yeah,
bomb. Go ahead.
I got a little frustrated yesterday
yeah.
as this whole thing broke because, and I didn't look at a lot. All I saw was a few like stories of people just like calling Tony Dungy all kinds of things:
Yep.
homophobe, shithead,
Yep.
you know, jerk,
Yep.
you know, terrible person, all these
Mhm.
types of things. And by all accounts, typically most people have respected Tony Dungy as a coach and as a
Yep.
as a player and as a man and
Yep.
all that kind of stuff. You know, I've always liked him. I thought he was a pretty
Me too.
level-headed guy. You know, that kind of thing.
And again, somebody I disagree with philosophically.
Sure, yeah, he's a
Okay,
Christian,
yeah.
you know, and but the statement that I heard, which had ellipses in it, you know, which always is a red flag.
Yeah,
to me,
because you don't know what the whole
what
statement
else did that
was.
say
Yeah.
and what was the context, was basically I wouldn't have drafted him because it wouldn't be worth the distraction that it will inevitably become. You know, it was basically, that's my paraphrase. And people really freaked out about that and started calling him homophobic. And here's my thing. 31 other teams basically said the same thing because this guy wasn't a first-round draft pick. He was a seventh-round draft pick. He's
not some
right.
superstar.
Right. He might make the team for special teams.
Yeah.
He might not. So,
Or he might be really good because Jerry Rice was a seventh round.
sure,
draft
who
pick.
knows?
Well, I don't know if seventh round, but he was low.
late.
He was
very
low.
late.
He was really low.
So, but my point being, in all sports, it always becomes a cost-benefit issue of people can be a major distraction. Von Miller is allowed to be a major distraction because he's Von Miller, because he's that good. All Tony Dungy was saying, and he came out later and clarified that that's what he was saying, was, listen, if there's any distraction, it's not worth it for a guy that might not even make the team. I just wouldn't have picked him because he's not good enough to play on my football team.
Sure.
Now, if people want to make the Michael Vick comparison, very different in my mind because Michael Vick was an unbelievable talent.
So I have a good comparison for you.
Yep.
Okay. So the problem with the Tony Dungy comments are his views on gay people and gay marriage and things like that, right?
But that's not what he was talking
his
about.
intolerance of it, right? So, because you have to look at it for a second, and here it comes. Find his comments last year about Tim Tebow.
Did he say Tim Tebow was worth the distraction?
We know sucks.
This is a great question. Did he say that he was worth the distraction?
The Lord will find the team for you, and then you will be placed on the right football team. I'm really excited for you to be in the NFL and play on the football team.
He said that to Tim Tebow.
He said that in a video to Tim Tebow. So now we know that Tim Tebow has been the biggest distraction on any football team.
See, because I wanted to make this comparison too, because I think that Tebow's not worth the distraction.
Yes, that's the thing. He's not.
Right.
You're right.
So maybe he's being hypocritical.
So now where are we? So we have two guys.
But
right?
I think what would be a better comparison would be, would Tony Dungy take Tim Tebow on his team?
And we don't know this, right? And this is what we don't know, right? And this is what we don't know. But he's very supportive of Tebow and getting on a football team.
Right.
Right?
Right.
Because the Lord will lead him. And he made it very religious in his, and I can show you the video.
Because it was directed to
Tim Tebow. Right? So he made it very religious, right? When you sign Tim Tebow now, And I don't dislike
everything that
and I don't
with
like this Tim Tebow. I don't dislike him. I don't dislike him. I'm sorry, I said I don't like him. I don't dislike him, right?
Yeah.
When you sign Tim Tebow, Sports Center broadcasts from your training camp.
Drives me nuts.
And he, you most likely know, is not going to make your team.
Yep.
He's been cut after the Broncos from every NFL team that he's tried for.
Yep.
So, therefore, not very good.
Right.
Right? We can make this conclusion.
Oh, yeah.
Right? We can make this conclusion.
Mm-hmm.
Michael Sam, we don't know about in the NFL. We have no clue how good he's going to be. Most likely, most 7th-round draft picks don't turn out.
Yeah.
Right? So not going to be very good. So we've got these two guys who one we know is not good. The other one, and everyone's going to jump all over me for saying that. He's way better than me. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, please, I'm not saying anything. He's a
NFL
Heisman
quarterback.
Trophy winner.
He's not very good.
You know what I mean?
He's not very good NFL quarterback.
Yeah. He's just not a good NFL quarterback. I'm sorry. He's great. I'm sure he does great things for the world. Whatever, man.
Yep.
That's not the argument, right? Good. We're talking about NFL quarterbacks' skills. And Michael Sam, we just don't know about yet.
Yep.
So the similarities are very, very similar. The only difference is, and we don't know if Tony Dungy would take Tim Tebow, right? But the only difference is we know he's not going to take Michael Sam.
Right.
And he's super, super supportive over here of Tim Tebow.
The difference, though, is the
gay
question.
Guy, Christian guy.
No, I don't think it's fair because the difference is the question being asked to him. The question that was asked
we don't know.
Would you take Michael Sam?
We don't know the whole context. Right. We don't know the whole context, and nobody's going to ask him would he take Tim Tebow. But I'll send you the video, and you tell me if you think he would take Tim Tebow.
He wished Michael Sam well. So that all he's doing with Tim Tebow is wishing him well. I hope you get on a team. I think you will get on a team. He would say the same thing to Michael Sam. I guarantee it. That he would say, I hope you get on a football team.
I hope you make the team.
Yeah.
So we'll see. But this is where Tony Dungy's walking himself into a time bomb a little bit.
Well,
and it's not a race thing. And if you're making it a race thing, don't be stupid. Tony Dungy's black.
Yeah, don't do
He's not going to be racist against another black guy.
Yeah, don't do that.
Don't do that. It's stupid. I hate the race card being dropped.
But let me say one other thing. The other thing that really ticked me off about it was Dungy came out and said, this was in an interview I gave a few months ago when the whole idea was that Oprah was going to do a reality show around Michael Sam.
She has a right to.
And she has a right to, and then they decided not to because they decided to be too much of a distraction.
Yeah.
So the context of it was this reality show that would come with drafting Michael Sam.
Uh-huh.
So the context was, would you draft him knowing this?
Yeah, for
and
sure.
Tony Dungy's like, no, he's not worth it. He's not worth it. So I think it got way overblown.
And it always does. And it always does. And I'm not saying that Tony Dungy was necessarily wrong. I'm just saying where we have to be careful. Where Tony Dungy's getting killed, right, is because he came out against gay marriage, which makes you kind of be against gay people. Okay?
Well,
it does.
I've decided I'm going to develop some pillars. You have your pillars.
Yeah.
I only have one, but I want to have some other things.
Right.
You know? So my one is the resurrection of Jesus, but one of mine is the redefinition of the word tolerance. And the word intolerant gets thrown around a lot, you know, and the very definition of tolerating somebody includes that we disagree on something. That's what we're doing in this podcast.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, I think we're demonstrating the old version of tolerance in this podcast because we're actually, I'm not calling you, you're an asshole because you think I'm crazy for being a Christian. And,
I'm an asshole, though.
But that's on your own thing, you know.
I make it purely on my own.
And you're not, so far, you've never looked at me and said, you know, you're an asshole because you believe in Jesus or because you're against gay marriage or whatever. We're trying not to demonize one another because we disagree. That's the definition of tolerance is we disagree and we're going to put up with each other's disagreements and still be able to be friends and all that kind of thing. Tolerance has been changed to you have to agree with somebody, and if you don't, you're an intolerant person. And that's been one of my beefs lately is that when you say Tony Dungy's intolerant just because he has a view that gay marriage isn't right or that acting on homosexual desires isn't right, doesn't mean he's an intolerant person. He's not being intolerant towards people. He's saying this is my view. You know, it's like it goes back to the Chick-fil-A thing. You know, the mic gets thrown in front of the owner of Chick-fil-A and they ask his opinion on gay marriage. He says, well, I don't think gay marriage is right. You know, that has zero impact on who he will hire. He's a franchise establishment. He's an equal opportunity employer. That has zero impact on that. And then everybody wants to boycott Chick-fil-A because the Southern Baptist guy doesn't believe in gay marriage. And they do that in the name of intolerance. And intolerance is a word that's been totally just used as this like bully mechanism in our culture lately to like shut people down, and that's what I felt like was happening.
Unwillingness to accept views, beliefs, or behavior that differ from one's own. A struggle against religious intolerance. Synonyms: bigotry, narrow-mindedness, small-mindedness, and this is where you start to get into your intolerance with gay marriage. I don't know what the fuck that word is. Or the inability to tolerate food.
But the funny thing to me is people then turn around and are very intolerant towards the people they're claiming to be intolerant. No. So I could also say you're being very intolerant of me and my position of gay marriage. And I know, people miss that.
Yeah. So you can just keep throwing it back and forth.
Right, that's my point.
I hear you. But you guys are starting with the intolerance. What do you care? It's not for you. I get it, right? You know, it's not. I 100% get it. You have zero statistics, right? If you want to argue that it's not going to be good for society, you have zero statistics on whether it's good for society. Zero, because it just started.
Well, there's two things.
There's not. You can't say that we won't move on as a species. You can't say that it's not going to be good for the kids that have been raised by two gay people. You have zero statistics, right? I talked about this with you the other day in a joking manner. I was like, I don't know, maybe it wasn't you. Maybe it was Park, right, who we work out with. I was like, I always make Kanan say hello. When Kanan was a baby or just starting to talk, I made him say hello to everybody. And he was real shy, and he hated it,
polite.
And now he's super good, right? Now he just talks to everybody. And I was like, it's my theory, man. It's my theory that if you make them do it, that they'll be outward and like really charismatic, you know? Yeah. I was like, I'm gonna do the same thing with Simon, and then if I get two of them, then my theory's right, man. You know? That was like my case study of two, you know? So we have no case study. We don't know what this is gonna look like in 30 years, right? So all of any argument that it's not good for society or anything like that is absolute bullshit because you don't know. We don't know. We need 20 years, right? It's like when steroids just came out, man. Everyone thought it was great, right? No one saw a problem with it. And then we saw 20, 30 years down the line what happened to people. We don't know what's going to happen when two dudes raise a kid or two girls raise a kid. We don't know.
We do to some degree, and here's why. Because we do, and here's why. Because we have enormous piles of stats on fatherlessness, and so just by taking mom and dad, and making it something else, we know that we'll.
But you don't know what these families are going to do and how they're going to.
No, but we know that will achieve different results because we have.
Yeah, but we don't know if it's going to be good or bad.
We do, and I can give you a whole book.
We don't know. We don't. So I can tell you. Hold on. I'm not arguing what fatherlessness does or motherlessness does. I'm not going to argue this, right? Because that's not the point. But one is absent. Because there's plenty of people, right, that have an adopted mother or father, and they're okay. Right?
There's different results still.
But there's different results, but they're still good people. Right?
There's all kinds of different
There's all kinds of results, right? What I'm saying is we don't know. We don't know what happens with two gay people. You have to take the same for the same. You can't... When most of the results are single-parent households. Most of them are single-parent households and how that affects a child. Right? We're not talking about a single-parent household. We're talking about a dual-parent household with two, I'm going to say most likely because it's not easy to adopt. Right?
It's not. No.
And it's for sure way harder if you're gay.
Yeah, you usually have money.
Right?
Yeah.
It's for sure way harder. They're going to do a lot of checking if you're gay.
Sure.
Right? So if you're gay, you're going to, have to be affluent.
Probably going to have some money.
You're going to have to be affluent. And I'm not talking middle-of-the-road middle class. We're sticking with the gay marriage, it looks like.
Apparently, yeah.
You know? We're not talking middle-of-the-road middle class.
Yeah.
Right? I'm talking upper middle class to rich.
Yeah.
Right?
You need to know that there have been a lot of stats. It's early in the actual marriage thing, but we do have studies on.
I want to see how bad it turns out.
And I can show you. some.
And
of those
I'm not
stats
going to. It can't be run by a Christian group.
That's so intolerant.
Yeah, well, because your viewpoint is starting. This. So that's not.
So is yours.
What's
yeah,
that?
And that's the thing.
No, mine's starting open. I'm not starting.
No, it's very narrow-minded.
I would
you're not allowing me to have my view. You're being very narrow-minded. See how that works?
Because your view is narrow.
See how that works?
I see it. I see it.
So let me say this though. I'll leave for again. The religious, Christian side out of it for a second. In the first or second episode, we talked about this a little bit, and I'll leave the. I'll leave the.
No, but hold on. So last week, people jumped all over me on the Facebook about this. That I want. That
you want me to leave God?
I want you to leave God. I don't want you to leave God out of everything.
Sure.
I don't want you to. I want you to leave God out of the government.
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
Yeah.
Right. When we talk about moral things and things like that, sure, God's got a seat at the table 100%. I'm not going to say He doesn't. I think it's crap.
Let me preface this with again, I want to take a little ownership from my team's perspective. The damage to marriage was done a long time ago in our country.
Yeah, it's got nothing to do with
and it was done by heterosexuals.
Yeah, it's got nothing to do with gay people.
It was in the 70s, and guess who led the charge? Ronald Reagan. So there I go. I'll make a lot of people really mad.
It's got nothing to do with gay people.
No-fault divorce laws started in California, and when that started, marriage as a fabric of our society started to unravel, and we've arrived where we are. And my parents are divorced, and I've inherited some of that. So the ship sailed on marriage a long time ago because heterosexual people started doing damage to the institution of marriage. Many of them Christians. So
most of them, because we live in a Christian society.
Many of them, sure. So we have arrived in a place that we set the course for.
Okay.
Now. So I'm not the one out there going, gay people are trying to destroy the fundamentals of marriage. The fundamentals of marriage were destroyed a long time ago, and it was mostly our fault.
I think the fundamentals of marriage are a little twisted anyway, but go ahead.
That sounds like another good topic to get into. But the reason that I will vote against gay marriage, and today is a big day in Colorado. Jay and Hank were informing us about this today. There's a judge who can decide to ratify what was voted on in Colorado, or we were joking, if he's smart, he'll just send it on to the Supreme Court so he doesn't have to own the decision. But maybe he'll be ballsy. Who knows?
Sure. It's going to the Supreme Court.
Probably, I would think so. Yeah, it'll get appealed. So anyway, the reason I would vote against gay marriage is because my belief is that you cannot stop the slippery slope that starts us on, and you won't have any justification for it. And there's already things that have started in places like Australia, where when a person, and we talked about this a little bit, when a person comes and says, "Why can't I be married to these three people?" Now you're the hateful, intolerant person who's
these three people.
Yeah,
polygamy.
Yeah. So let me finish. Now you're if you say, no, you can't, now you're being very hateful, narrow-minded, and intolerant, because that's how he loves, man. That's his deal. That's the way he was born. That's the way he was wired. Whatever it is, you're being very mean to that guy. You're being very intolerant to that guy.
So my slope will end when somebody wants to marry somebody that can't give legal consent.
So can they marry multiple people?
I don't care.
Can we do Sharia law? So can Muslim guys come over with their 4 wives and bring them over?
I don't care, man.
Okay.
What do I care?
Okay. So when a guy with another guy and then 2 other women create a club to say we're the married club, and now we bring in several children into that equation, and then there's a big fight in that club, and 3 of them get pissed at the one, and now we have all these children that now have to be sorted out in custody. What have we signed ourselves up for?
I don't know.
And that's my point. Very pragmatic.
I hear you. Yeah, that I can't say that I care that much. I haven't looked into the whole problems of polygamy.
Yeah, and that's why marriage.
But hold on, right? So let me ask you a question real fast then. Would you be okay with them having civil unions? How did you vote in 2006 on a referendum?
I don't think I did, because I just moved here in 2006.
Because because a lot of people try to say the same thing, right? So my question to you is, we had a referendum I on the bill, on the ballot here. And referendum I was to pass civil unions for gay people.
Yep.
And it failed.
Yeah, I would have to read the language on all of that entails. I have no problem with, and this is the example that's always brought up of like a, guy's in the hospital, he's dying or whatever's happening, and his partner wants to come see him, or he wants to leave all his money to his partner. That should happen. Whatever we have to do to make whoever you want to see you in the hospital when you're dying,
and make
great.
the choice.
You get to make the choice.
And
whoever you want to leave your money to.
Okay.
Yeah. And
so
I'm game for that. So I'd have to read all the language on it to see what it entails.
It was that. It was civil unions. It was the definition of civil unions.
Mm-hmm.
Taxes, live together, share all the same health care benefits.
So the question, though, that becomes is why...
It's just this word marriage. Basically, it's this word marriage.
There's that, but there's also why does a sexual union between two people dictate being allowed to have that civil union? Why couldn't two buddies get together and go, there's actually some benefits if we were civilly unionized or whatever that we could receive? Why let's just go live in this apartment together and we'll sign a contract and now we can reap some benefits from it. Why is the sexual
because you're trying to have a life together, right? And you're in this civil union or marriage, and I don't think there should be a difference in the terms, is a rest of your life type thing.
So,
right? And you're going to really make some effort to love each other for the rest of your life.
Two dudes could say that.
Yeah, but we're buddies, right? But we're not. But that's not. But that's not how we work. Yeah, of course. Look, nothing's perfect, right? Do we need welfare? Do we need welfare in the country?
Yeah.
Yes. Do people manipulate the system?
Absolutely.
Yes. Do we need health care? Yes. Do people manipulate the system? Yes, right? This is inevitable. In any society where there's going to be a lot of people are going to manipulate the system.
Yeah.
That's the worst reason in the world not to do it. That's the worst reason in the world not to do it.
It would be like opening up the floodgates with no reason to say no to anything.
Yeah, but we have a reason to say no.
You don't.
Yeah, we do.
You've given it away.
No, we haven't.
You've given it away because marriage was one man, one woman, and that is what marriage is. And when you give that away, now you've opened it up to, okay, well, if we redefined it once, we can redefine it over and over and over again. And if you draw a line, it's arbitrary.
So I know that's the definition of the marriage in the Bible.
Right. Because God created it and came up with it, and it was his idea. I said I would leave it out, but you just walked right. You brought up the Bible.
I did bring up that wonderful,
wonderful,
great book of this. That is oh so wrong, but you guys choose to follow for your whole life.
Just so everybody knows, we were going to talk about something else.
We were going to talk about something else today.
Yeah.
But we're going to go 3 more minutes on this, and then we're going to do the questions on Facebook.
Sounds good.
I just think that we can figure out a way that we can set some rules up. You know, just like we do with everything else.
Yeah, I'm sure we will. And in 20 years, people are going to knock those down. And then what my whole point is marriage will cease to exist as a function.
We don't know that. We just don't know that, right? And telling two people that they can't be married is a really rough thing for me. And
is it a rough thing for you to tell 4 people they can't be married?
Is it a rough... I have to look at the circumstances. I'd have to do a little more research on it, and it might be... I don't know.
So in Australia, there was a judge who said we need to relook at incest because that's an old...
Hold on. Because, yes, now that is going to be a little off, right? For sure. Because that for sure doesn't help us move on as a species. And we know this. It causes birth defects. It causes health problems.
We have abortion.
Yeah, what's that?
But we have abortion. That was his argument.
But we have abortion?
That was his argument.
Yeah. So the whole abortion thing that came back to last week, I don't agree with abortion as a form of birth control, right? I think it's terrible. Do people do that? Yes, right? Am I pro? So I want to make it real clear last week, I'm not pro have abortions, right? This is not like, let's go have some abortions, man, right? I think it should be there. I think we need to put some restrictions on when is the last time you can have that. I don't know when that is. I can't say that I'm smart enough, right? And when we've had this, and I want to clarify my point from last week since you brought up the abortion thing, right? So yeah, for sure we have abortion, but now if you're going to use abortion in the incest case, you're using it as a form of birth control, and now that is morally wrong.
That was his point. Yeah. He was like, we have birth control, we have abortion, we have all these things, so you don't have to worry about the kids that will arise from incestuous situations. So if a brother and sister, Game of Thrones style, if a brother and sister want to get together and be married, why would we stop them? Yeah, that was his point.
You do. You have to worry about the kids still with abortion.
I'm just telling you this Australian judge's point.
I know.
Western civilized.
I hear you. So I'm not this far left. Well, I'm not this far left.
Yeah.
And I do believe there's going to be some middle ground, and I do think that two dudes and 2 women or not so when people start saying, what if I want to marry my dog? Don't be an idiot. Okay, no, you know
it will happen though, and there are actual cases. You know that, right?
No, I know. And these people deserve to be on some medication and possibly be in a mental hospital. Which is, you know, which to this free will book that I'm reading, which we talked about a little bit, which is everything, no fault of their own. You know, which I'm gonna have to read more into it. You know, do a little more research, but I think we're smart enough as a society to figure this out, and we figured out a lot of laws. Only 2 of your commandments are in our laws, right?
Yeah, stealing and murder.
Stealing and murder. Yep. You know, they're the only things. So it's not like God's laws are the laws of the land, right? And they shouldn't be. Like we talked about last week a little bit. I'm not, so you can, like, just like you said, you can keep throwing intolerance back and forth. You can always keep trying to push the line back, right? At all times. You know,
it's one of my big beefs.
There's going to be a point where we have to stop.
There's a book called The Intolerance of Tolerance, which I think is really well written because it points out so well how there goes another go-kart. Our country is very intolerant towards certain things, and I think the Tony Dungy thing flared it up. Like, we're very intolerant towards anybody who says anything that's even closely perceived as negative towards gay people, and that wasn't a negative thing towards a gay person.
But you have to look at the person's background and history. Right? So you always have to, right?
Yeah.
So if some dude that, and this, I'm going to use the KKK again, right? But if some dude that was in the KKK that came around on the KKK, right, was like, oh, I'm not now, and we don't really know him, but just says something in the public eye against the black guy, you're going to look at him and go, dude, and I make these big jumps, I know. Tony Dungy is not in the KKK.
Not the same.
We're not the same, right? But you have to look at why somebody might feel this way about this person, right? You have to look at that. You can't just go, oh, he's not talking about it because he said he's not talking about it because he's a gay guy. Of course he's going to say that, right? We don't know, and I'm not crucifying Tony Dungy.
Yeah, some people are.
Some people are. You know what I mean? I'm not coming out and crucifying Tony Dungy yet because I don't like to just kind of like the videos that you talked about where you go around and film somebody for 10 seconds. I need to see the whole interview. I need to see when the whole interview was. You know what I mean? You need to see all of it before you make these blank statements. I do think there might be a little bit of hypocritical with the Tim Tebow thing. You know,
it's just different. I think wishing Tim Tebow well and saying, "Would you draft?"
I'll send you the video. I'll send you the video.
If you were to ask me, like if I was a GM or a coach, would you draft Michael Sams during that whole thing of Oprah's going to be coming and there's going to be a reality show surrounding it? And I probably would have said, "No, man, that's not worth the distraction. I don't want a reality show around my team." And he's a borderline player anyway. Now, if you would have said, I'll just use Von Miller again. Von Miller, would you draft him knowing this? Yep.
Yeah, no,
absolutely. I couldn't care less if he's gay if I'm the coach or I'm the GM.
This
or the
is you though, right? And I get it.
But I think Dungy's much like that.
We don't know. So you're just assuming now, right? We don't know.
But based on having read some of his stuff and listened to him for years, I think there's a reason why he's gained so much respect from people. And then people just crucify him for a statement 2 months later put out of context.
I don't know.
All right, let's do some questions. All right, you go first because mine.
This is for Elliot. What would be the danger for you in accepting that there is a God or Jesus as your Savior of the world? I do believe it's dangerous. I believe it halts a lot of critical thinking. A lot of the times you just look at this book that I believe is very, 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 very flawed in its writing. I'm not saying that all Christian people are bad. I'm not saying that, obviously, right? But I do disagree with organized religion. I don't disagree with God. If you want to believe in a God, that's fine. I don't even know if I necessarily disagree with you trying to be a good person and follow the laws of Jesus. But if you read the book in its entirety, I know you like to say words are different words and this and that. But what it says is what it says. The only instance that we allow this, I'm going to interpret this differently type thing. A day is not a day, or you can rape a woman, but this is just telling you what to do if you do rape a woman. The only instance that we make these exceptions is religion, right? We make them in no other aspects of life. If I write a book about what happens when I make this chemical reaction, and I write oxygen, and the oxygen is wrong, well, then it's just flat out wrong, right? I don't go, oh yeah, well, there's this part of oxygen, and it doesn't happen anywhere else. You get crucified when you write the wrong word. So I don't believe it stops you from thinking critically. I think I really do. Because if it's when your worldview starts to get challenged, you go, oh.
Does it stop me from critical thinking?
If you don't believe in evolution, yeah, but I'm
talking about me personally.
You personally? I'm not saying, but the masses is what I'm saying. Well, the masses, right? Okay. So the masses, what it's done for religion, it has not been positive. I don't think. Okay. That's my problem with religion. I don't have a problem with God. Mm-hmm. I don't, but my mom is a believer in God. My dad is a believer in God. Most of my family is a believer in God, not in Jesus, not in Allah, not in that. And if you really want to look at it, Christianity is no different really for me than Islam. It's just where you're born for the most part. You can't get around that. And if you look at what Islam, the tenets of Islam, right, are much harsher than the tenets of Christianity. What it tells you to do in that Quran is really, really not cool, man. It's really, really not cool. And I hate to say this to most of you, but if you were born there, you'd be doing the same things.
That ties into Jason's question really well.
You would, yes, that's why I picked this one.
Yeah.
You would be doing the exact same things. You would be screaming for martyrdom. You would be. You're not any different. Your chemical makeup is very similar. You would just happen to be born in a place where there's a little more tolerance. And for sure, with Islam, we can say there's a lot more intolerance, yes?
Sure. Yeah, by the old definition.
Yeah, by the old definition. Right. So if you know what I mean? So everyone talks about how these people are so bad. Don't think it's much different.
So
this is Sam Harris's point.
Yeah.
And I'm going to get crushed for that. Oh, yeah.
I ordered The Moral Landscape for John. You know,
you walked yourself into that one.
Well, I have read a lot of Sam Harris's stuff.
You walked yourself into that one, but the topic that you were talking about.
I hadn't read the one book.
You hadn't read the one book on the topic you were talking about, and you walked right into it. And
I have heard him lecture on it at length.
Yeah, but you have to read the book.
I will. It should be at my desk when I get back. So Jason says, Scott Nickel, quick question that my brother and I were discussing a while ago. Do you think if I weren't raised in a church-going family or around believers that you would have ever found faith or Jesus for that matter? You changed pronouns, it's messed me up. Conversely, Elliot, if you were, don't know, this parenthetical, don't know if you were not.
He doesn't know if I was
raised in a Christian home. So basically his question is, would I, and the answer is I don't know. You know, I think you're very right. There's no question that where you're born matters when it comes to your faith. Now, I, have been to Afghanistan. My wife's been to Afghanistan. Sure. I know Christians in Afghanistan. I won't name them on a podcast because they could get killed over there, Yeah. So yes, it's possible. It's absolutely possible for somebody to grow up one 100%. Way and change, So the statistics show in general, if you're born in a Muslim country, you're going to be a Muslim person. If you're born here, you have a higher tendency to be a Christian, So I don't know what would be the answer to that. I think I would likely, because I am pretty critical thinker, a pretty critical thinker. I think at some point, for me, just like I've walked through critically Christianity and then arrived at this, there's a point in your faith where you have to go, this faith that my parents have handed to me, do I want to own it or not? And for me, I went through that and came out the other side and went, yes, I now personally want to own this faith as mine. And I think I would have probably done that no matter what kind of faith I would have been handed. So
I think you would be a faithful person. I agree.
Probably.
I don't think it would be Jesus.
Well, I don't know. I think if I was presented with Jesus because of how I'm wired, I would have still come out with Jesus because I think it's the
but this is the point of free will. This is part of it. Is your experiences would the way your experiences would alter your chemical makeup would change. So I do believe that you would still be faithful. I believe if you were born in Afghanistan, most likely you'd be a Muslim. I really do. And it's so hard to say, right? It's so hard to say. But look, so this whole parent thing, right? This was, and I don't know if we've talked about it or not. This gets back to Christy's question about the dangers of the dangers of Christianity for me, or religion in general, because they all pretty much say this. People that are raised, and I'm going to take it to sex, right? In religion, you're taught that sex is kind of evil, not to have it before marriage, things like that. But the way this is used,
it gets taught incorrectly. I'll give you that
for the most part, right? So now the way this gets used is a lot of people have this idea that sex is bad,
if it's taught improperly,
and a lot of times it is taught improperly. And telling someone that it's so bad that you can't, and I disagree with the whole no sex before marriage thing, right? So a lot of people, and I'm going to use my wife as an example, right? Like, man, her whole life she was taught that sex was really, really bad, right? You know, and that you shouldn't do it, and it's, you know, and man, this is dangerous because it's not bad.
Yeah, I've preached this before. To grow up being taught sex is dirty, bad, and wrong, save it for marriage, is a really weird thing to teach people. Now,
but you can't get away from the fact that a lot of Christians, this is what they teach, right? So when the question's asked to me, am I worried? What do I think the problem with it is? This is part of the problem because you have to look at how it's now implied in the majority of the time.
And this is where you and I find a lot of common ground because I have a huge criticism against the way the church has taught about sex, as opposed to God created it. It was His idea. It's awesome. It's a gift for you. It's something you should experience with one. Now, then when you get down to here's why it's better in the context of marriage is because with that level of commitment, it's this tremendous gift and it's this amazing thing that you can't just achieve with everybody out on the street.
So I agree with that. Sex with my wife is way better than sex with just random people. Right?
So my whole point being, yes, you can always point to religion misapplied or taught incorrectly can be very damaging. I walk through life with thousands of people every week who have been just damaged by religion. So you'll not get me to argue about that.
So I do believe that it's that. So when Christy, to sum up my point with Christy and to kind of touch on Jason's question as well, I do believe it's very dangerous because I think a lot of the times it's like CrossFit. Most CrossFit people teach it so bad, right? They teach it so bad, and then what happens? You get hurt, right? You know, because...
But you would say CrossFit is good.
Well, I would say CrossFit is good. So I'm not going to tell you that a belief in God is bad. I'm not going to tell you this, right? I'm going to tell you that an organized religion is very dangerous. Yeah. You know?
She asked, too, to me, she said, how do you respond to those who say if there's one Christian faith, then why are there so many Christian denominations to proclaim to do it right? Because there's people, man. People are messed up. And so just like I see it in every world I walk in. So in the CrossFit world, you see it where there's people, you know, there's a gym, and then people come, and they are part of it, and then they get in a fight, and they go start their own gym. It happens in martial arts, same thing. It happens in church, unfortunately, because it involves messed up people. So just because messed up people mess up things doesn't mean the actual thing is wrong, you know.
Chris Webster asked me if I'm liberal or conservative. I'm way more liberal. I'm way more liberal for sure. I follow that line. You're gonna ask me, and I don't mind demonizing my team for some things that they do.
Sure.
Right? I mean, I'll come out and say right now I voted for Obama 2 times. Yeah. Right.
See, I'll never tell people who I voted for because of my position.
Yeah, you can't.
Because then it becomes like, wait, you're telling people who to vote for. So the only person who ever knows who I vote for is my wife.
I know who you voted for.
You know who I voted for?
Oh, yeah.
I told you who I voted for. Man, I've shared something with you that I've only shared with my wife.
I will never tell
you. Now I feel awkward about our relationship.
And don't, please, nobody ask me who we voted for. I'm not telling you because I know he doesn't want it out.
Yeah, that's not a. But I will tell you that I'm registered now as independent. You know, right. So I don't like either team.
I'm not liking either. I'm not liking either team right now too much either. Yeah. You know.
Who would win a cage fight between the two of you? Come on now. Do I get a gun?
Most likely that gun's not going to
I need to use it from across the cage.
You need to be more than 16 feet.
It needs to be at the belt.
If you're within 16 feet, I'm going to fuck you up. 16 feet.
You're like a viper. You can double your length.
Well, they say that's the number, right? 16 feet. Like
you're not 8 feet tall.
No, but in the intensity with your adrenaline, you're going to miss. Yeah. You're going to get shots off.
I'm going to get a lot of. He won't.
No, but
hold
on. No, see, people blow this all the time.
Oh, I know. Cops mostly.
People mess this up all the time. There are great marksmen that mist, you need to know what the pressure feels like, homie.
Yeah.
You need to know what, oh man, my life is on the line right now. Oh, that's how you shoot your kids. When everyone's like, yeah, man, I got a gun, bro.
Yeah,
come into my house.
That's why cops shoot the
I'll
good
come
guys.
into your house. I'm going to whoop your ass.
Yeah.
You know?
Have you lived in regions where it's easier to be an atheist, Elliot, or a Christian, Scott? How about places where it's harder? I've lived here, which is far less Bible Beltish than Kentucky, by far. I've lived in Dallas. That was horrible. That's as Bible Belt as you can get. And I've lived in Michigan briefly and Cincinnati for a while. So mostly Bible Belt. I tend to function much better here outside the Bible Belt because I get angry.
Sure.
And that's the thing, like I was telling you, like that's where we have all this common ground. Like I used to speak for this organization where they would send me to places like Tennessee and all these places back in the Bible Belt, Texas. And I would get this like angst that would come over me before I would teach, and I would have to literally like pray to God, like, God, don't let me preach so angry at these people. They haven't done anything to me. But I would get like this burden of like, I'm in the Bible Belt, and there's so many backwards things here that are just not even true to Christianity, and so I would preach really, really angry.
Sure.
So I fit better here, I think.
For Elliot, why do I value scientific over historical evidence? Look, I don't value scientific over historical evidence. I hold them both to the same standard. You can't just write one book, though. Right? When you're looking at historical evidence, history is always written by the winner. Right? It's always written by the winner. It's never written by the loser. Very, very rarely, because they're dead. Right? You know? So when you look at historical evidence, just like when you look at scientific evidence, look, scientific evidence, one guy writing a book that, Darwin, writing his book, right, does not make it correct. Right? It doesn't make it right at all. What happened was his book was peer-reviewed by millions and millions of people, and they came up with the same conclusion, man. Yeah. So therefore, this is evidence. Yeah. Therefore, this is truth. When you look at history, right, what are we taught in grade school about the Indians? Native Americans. What are we taught? That we had this great time at Thanksgiving and yay, yay, right? That's not the truth, man. Right? That's not the truth. Right? These four Indians wanted to cut your head off.
They did with wrenches.
They're like, white guy, boom, right? And there's a reason for that.
Oh, man,
we
mad at me.
fucked them up.
I know, and
right?
I went through the reservation. I was like, I'd be mad too.
Yeah, you would be, exactly. Yeah. So look, when you talk about historical evidence, I need multiple sources to believe that something in history is true, right? Just like when you watch the news, if you turn on Fox News or if you turn on MSNBC, Fox News is way worse, by the way.
So intolerant.
I'm not intolerant. I watch that shit. You know? If you turn them on and you think that is going to be your full source of news, I hate to tell you.
Yeah.
You're way wrong.
Yeah.
Right? You need to watch some news. You need to watch a lot of news. You need to read a lot. Right? So when you look at historical evidence, it's going to be very, very biased. Right? From a point of view. And when you look at scientific evidence, there's numbers. Right? There's numbers to the science.
Well, I think it's just fair to say that you value scientific evidence over historical evidence.
I don't, because if you can really show me the historical evidence, right, like that Christopher Columbus landed, I don't argue that Christopher Columbus landed in 1492. Yeah. I don't argue this at all, right? Because why? There's nothing that says otherwise.
Yeah.
There's nothing that goes,
yeah,
there's nothing to contradict it.
Next time or maybe the time after that, we need to get into the historicity of the Bible.
Okay.
Because I think it's not just one book, you know.
Yeah,
66 books.
It's 66 books. Yeah. Great, that's not a lot.
Well, and then there's a lot of other peer review corroboration that goes on, and I'd love to show that to you. So.
Yeah, I would love to see. So, like, what I want what I want to see is I want to see an atheist not believe in evolution. That's what I want to see. An atheist
not believe in evolution.
Give me one of those books. So that's why I'm so heavy on science, right?
Why would you care about an atheist who didn't believe in evolution?
Because it doesn't exist. It's an oxymoron.
Right. Yeah, I'm like, why would that prove?
Because now look, so what it does is it separates it. Like, people are like, this isn't right. Right?
You can find atheists who become Christians, though.
Yeah, for sure, but they still keep that. So I'm not explaining this well, sorry. Somebody whose worldview is in line but disagrees.
Okay.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You know, somebody whose worldview is but that's wrong, right? And So, and then he asked when discussing the life of Jesus, because there's just so many accounts that disagree with what he says. There's not so when I look at evidence, right? There's not one single account that disagrees with a lot of, like gravity. There's nobody.
You're not going to find you're not going to find accounts that were current with the Gospels that disagree about Jesus.
The coming back to life.
You won't find accounts.
The coming back to life.
That was the whole thing we argued about.
Muslims believe this too.
No, Muslims don't believe he came back to life. There we go.
So
Muslims believe he didn't die.
There's the account.
Muslims believe he didn't die.
They think he's still alive.
They think they believe he didn't die on the cross. They think he swooned. It's a swoon theory that he passed out on the cross. They thought he was dead, and then he came back to life. Not came back to life, revived. Yeah, which is silly.
I don't know, right?
Well, you said
I said it's probably
crazy.
It's silly. It could be silly. So, most of the world doesn't believe in Jesus.
Well, I'd have to look at the population numbers, but yeah.
Sure. India, bro.
Yeah, you got India alone.
India trumps the whole world almost.
There's Christians in India,
right? But for the you know what I mean. Mm-hmm. Most of them are Hindu. Yeah. So there's plenty of books, and there's plenty of historical books that say that none of that happened.
Well, they're not historical books that say none of that happened. They don't. A lot of those religions don't base a lot in history, especially Hinduism and things like that. So,
I'm just saying they just don't believe.
They don't believe. That's one thing. But to have historical evidence that's contrary.
But hold on. if you have to believe that Jesus wasn't resurrected, because if you believe that Jesus was resurrected, then
you better be a Christian.
You better be a Christian.
Yeah, you'd be crazy not to be.
Yeah, that'd be stupid. That'd be really dumb.
Yeah,
if I believe that Jesus was
resurrected. That's the one thing.
If I believe that Jesus was resurrected, then I'd be a Christian.
I'd be a preaching motherfucker.
Absolutely. I got Scott dropping F-bombs.
That's one of my favorite quotes. We got to wrap it up.
Yeah.
All right. On that note, that was episode 8. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next week.
Hank, get the microphone, buddy.